Alright, it's time for the Pinocchio.
James Moyner, yeah, that was good, man. We learned Walt Disney, bro. Walt Disney was the only one who had a solid hairline in any of the footage, bro.
Think he
Like
cryogenically frozen his hairline?
He had to, bro. It's time for the making of Pinocchio, no strings attached, like the NSYNC album, bro.
Fire album.
Is this? Doesn't this know when you wish upon a star?
First star I see tonight. Have the wish I make tonight.
Oh yeah, man, this guy wished for
Sometimes
a child.
the stars
Weirdo.
are in alignment when it comes
And he
to
got what
a
he wanted.
project or an artistic.
Pinocchio is a unique film because it followed Snow White, and you can see the confidence.
There was some
the
wild
ultimate
stuff in
expression
this.
Pleasure Island, bro.
Man, Pleasure Island. And that guy turning the boys into donkeys.
Pleasure Island was a weird
In the
name.
history of Disney animation, Pinocchio is a very, very
It's also the name of my summer home.
It
Your
was
summer
their
home?
second feature.
You got a summer home?
Just after
Called
Snow
Pleasure
White and
Island.
the Dwarfs. And
What
that
you
was
got
a
there?
huge
Why
rousing
not have an app in
success.
there?
You gotta have a hairline. It's got the hairline
serious?
standards.
Discrimination.
A journalist and writer who lived in Florence, in Italy.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, cause it wasn't the Linguini or something. That was the weird guy. You must work.
Rather like Dickens' stories were told, serialized week by week in what was the first journal for children published in Italy.
Was Pleasure Island in there?
Mischief,
Oh, you know it
moral
was.
And improving stories about what you need to do if you're going to be a really good.
I've been reading Flowers in the Attic. Can't wait for Disney to animate that, bro.
About Pinocchio, certainly most accessible.
He just looks like a
Is
dude.
this wide
Yeah, I know.
sense of invention.
He looks
But
like
there
his
was
name is
snakes.
Ned.
Esque sense of adventure that Collodi has, but it comes mixed with some of the most cruel and vicious.
Yo, okay.
sort
They had him
of
on a
morals
chain?
centered
BDSM.
around What it takes for this puppet to earn his right to becoming a real boy.
That's what your skin be
The
looking
moment
like.
The work started on the film.
Don't be talking
it
about my
proved
skin like
problematic.
that. Why you be looking at my skin that closely?
He was brash, he was cocky.
He was a bad boy.
Kind of unlikable. He was a troublemaker.
Kinda
Walt
weird
didn't
that
like that as
Pinocchio,
he was
like,
shaping up, so he changed his
Geppetto
Disney began to realize that this little wooden character was
like, I
really
want a
not
bad
very
boy.
sympathetic. Partly because he
Yo, whoa! He was just with the cotton candy, bro.
They had started out doing some animation based on model sheets that really showed a Pinocchio that looked like a puppet, like really something that you would carve out of wood, very geometric shapes, very wooden looking. And Walt just didn't care for it. And he said, it just doesn't look alive, and I don't see the appeal.
and they had to decide what to do.
He was intense. He was like that looking crazy.
He was a puppet. And test scene where Pinocchio had the donkey ears and a tail, and he was down on the sea bottom, and he knocked on the shell of this clam. Walt liked it, so that became the model, and it still refined a little bit more later, but the idea.
This is a matter of not just changing the character.
Oh, this guy's voice is really deep.
Character's behavior so that his status as a puppet was minimized.
This guy needs to read audiobooks.
Not being cocky or arrogant or being a wise guy, he actually became a really sweet, innocent little boy.
A real boy!
They had to de-swag him.
He could have been a real one.
Rose up again as a ghost later on.
What Disney saw in this character,
Those
and
belong in
goodness
the
knows
streets.
this is a testimony to Disney's sheer inventiveness, was that it could contain the kernel of something that might make this story work.
Walt had felt that there was not enough warmth. There's not enough friendship.
I gotta get in there!
And it's that constant humor of
He's
Jimmy's,
feeling it up.
and that constant ability to deflate a serious situation.
The humor in Pinocchio is just timeless.
Screwball in a corner pocket.
It's just as funny today as it would have been back then. You look at any movie from the 30s, 40s, very few hold up without being a little dated, a little corny. Pinocchio isn't.
Close your eyes. A lot of the film has a kind of thread of irony.
Oh yeah, that was Honest John, bro. Honest John, bro. That name was not accurate.
Honest John sings, "Hi, diddly-dee."
He wanted to diddly dee Pinocchio.
He's doing it to hoodwink Pinocchio. And that's a sense of irony. There's all sorts of these ironies going through it. Stromboli is another great example.
Oh, Stromboli, not Linguini.
It's a slug. He starts to curse because...
For you, my little Pinocchio.
like he's bestowing a great gift on him. Storytelling has that kind of richness to it. I mean, you already know.
They had a child with the cigars, bro.
Pleasure Island. That's gonna be bad news.
That's what was Michael Jackson's house.
Pinocchio's about temptation. We all are tempted every day. Do we do the right thing or do we do the wrong?
My nose! What's happening?
I'm still wondering,
Perhaps you
was
haven't
the
been telling the
alcohol
truth,
and the cigarettes,
On the
cigars,
one hand,
causing
Pinocchio
them
was
to
very
turn into
faithful to the
donkeys?
original
That's the weird
stories.
part.
On the other hand, Disney.
That's
lightened
what
it
happens
up
if you,
and
after
made it
one
more
sip of
palatable
alcohol,
to an
bro.
American audience. In order to illustrate that, Disney has to show it to you in all of its horror in some cases.
Most of Walt's early films, as wonderful as they are to look at, definitely had the dark side to them. Snow White and the Queen, you know, asking for Snow White's heart.
I forgot that was a wild plot. If I'd say I was like, I don't really like that guy, he's kind of lame. And then like a week later, here's his heart in a box, sir. I'd be like, hold on, bro.
Who is this person that you hang it with? That
under threat.
here's his heart.
All things, Frank would go. The blue fairy, in shape of a dove, comes down, you know, and drops this note to inform Pinocchio where the father is.
This is a story structure which is quite unlike anything which Disney had ever done before.
The episodic thread of it allows you to give a huge amount of scope.
It's at midnight.
I think that the way it has been organized.
I love the way they just whimsically kept kidnapping him, bro. That could have been you, dude. You could have been pulled away.
By a fox man?
I forgot to open the window.
You know this guy was a cat person because he had a designated cat bed with a pillow and blanket, bro.
I think that's one thing the film benefits from by the fact that it is episodic. You've got each of these set pieces for these marvelous, rich characters to come and interact with Pinocchio and Jiminy. And that really gives each
I felt really uneasy watching this because they were trying to buy Pinocchio. Well, first they were like, he's a wood and he's a boy. I'm like, why is that beneficial to you? What is your intentions?
Had to do with personality.
They were just pencil drawings that were brought to life with very sketchy backgrounds. They were very fantastic in the sense that these characters
I thought they said Steamboat Willis. I was like, are they going by his government name? He's Steamboat Willis?
All of them were great experiments. All of them were really amazing achievements, whether it was in the short films.
Babes in the Woods. Ain't that a dream?
There's been a lot of talk in recent years about the 9 old men who were the 9 artists who were pretty much the mainstay.
That guy looks like Jordan Peele.
At the
It's
time
all
we're talking
various
about here,
hairlines.
the late 9 old men were still sort of the 9 young whippersnappers.
Those hair...
The guys who
Oh,
actually
that's what they looked like in the past?
mainstay, Fred Moore, people who had actually created the whole aesthetic of Disney animation during the 1930s.
It's crazy how like people dressed so good back in the day. Like they were just there in like a full like vest and like button-up shirt. You know the modern Disney animation is probably like a guy like an otaku with Dorito stains, bro.
Was in the estimation of a lot of people one of the greatest animators who ever lived. One of the things that he was really known for was his animation of really strong, powerful, forceful characters. I think he may be best known today for animating Chernobog, and so it's not too surprising.
Bald Mountain.
Bully.
Oh!
I just love the way Stromboli rocks the room. He just has such weight and power and comedy.
He had a real knack with appealing, cute characters. So he really had done a lot to establish the look of a number of Disney characters during the 1930s. He is starting to recede a little bit. In fact, Lampwick is a little bit of a self-caricature.
Yo, look at this guy is looking crazy, bro.
Was Pinocchio...
Dude, this guy looking crazy. His eyes...
And
one of the things Frank probably doesn't get a lot of credit for is animating Pinocchio as a marionette before he comes to life. But it feels like wood clattering on the floor. It's the perfect tour de force piece of physicalized animation. Ollie Johnston got to handle Pinocchio when he's telling the big lie to the blue fairy and his nose is growing and gets bird's nest on it.
Dude, his nose produces life. If we were stranded and a nigga could lie in a bird's nest with eggs and birds would appear, bro, that'd be a blessing. Yo, this guy Looks like an exhumed person.
Oh my gosh.
Soup sequence. Of course, I was crestfallen, but right away he came in and he says, but I've got a little character in our next
man is a
picture,
sight to
and we're going to
behold.
call him Jim. I'd like to have you be the animation supervisor.
He looks like a
on
prop
this.
made to life.
Looking like you don't have any friends.
It's like Smeagol's son.
Smeagol's father.
Really, we only know it's a cricket because we're...
Remember when Gordon Ramsay was trying to look like a fake chef? When they put him in that, makeup?
That was bad.
Figaro, the cat.
Oh, Figaro.
He gave Figaro the personality of a little spoiled kid. Probably his most famous scene is when Geppetto's telling Figaro not to eat his dinner before Pinocchio comes home, and he just kind of goes into that little huff.
Distinguish the styles of the major animators. Now, when you get into that pool hall on Pleasure Island, that is Freddie Moore doing Lampwick. It is Milt Kahl doing Pinocchio. And it's Ward Kimball doing the cricket. And there is just so much pleasure watching
In the island.
You tell me you take orders from a grasshopper?
Grasshopper? Look here, you impudent young pup.
If you had a little lovable, like, New York City rat that always led you, was your conscience, what should I do with that?
Pinocchio himself, it's the reaction, not the action.
Yo.
That's like and the lighting in it.
What's going on? It's building and building. Lampwick is freaking out.
It would be tempting to say
It would have been
Pinocchio,
imagine if he just had to live with the donkey ears for the rest of his life.
This is a dynamic
Like, he becomes a real boy, but the donkey ears maintain.
What if I became a donkey
pens and ink
and we're just doing videos? I maintain my voice,
really
but I'm just a full-on
and we
donkey.
see it in a way that
Man, no, you're a full donkey, but you have human hands.
Black man hands.
No, you have white hands.
My hands turn white like a white dude?
Yes.
Don't let these white hands fool you. I'm a brother.
Cliff Edwards, otherwise known as Ukulele Ike, is
Ukulele
the voice
Ike, bro.
and really the character of
That's a Midwest emo name.
In vaudeville, on Broadway, on records, on radio. He had a hit record in the 1920s of a song called June Night that some people say may have been the first million-selling record.
Line. That comb over is over the top.
Statue was Donald Duck.
Cliff Edwards had a wonderful, charming, lively voice, and it was because of that Jiminy took on a lot of the characteristics that he did. Because Jiminy, of course, is singing songs in the film, and he's really almost like a Cliff Edwards surrogate.
Oh, yeah. Almost forgot about you.
Dickie Jones wasn't the first choice.
People aren't named Dickie no more. What was it? Have you ever met a man named
when the
Dickie
character
that was like
his voice
not
seemed to go
old?
well.
Excitement about everything.
Oh, look, Father! Look!
You just fall in love with that little guy.
There was some
the
like
minute he starts
controversies
talking.
where there was like child stars like this,
Dickie
where
Jones
like
had quite a year.
they had a
because
short-lived
he
life
recorded
because
Pinocchio in, I think, 1939.
their
That's the
life
same
went
year he
horribly
appeared
wrong.
Now I have just the name for you.
Fetty Wap.
We're having trouble designing the character until they found that the actor to do his voice, Christian Rubb.
They just
Not
made
many
it.
people
Oh,
know
this
he
guy's
was
hair
just
is
like that.
crazy.
He was actually the live physical model for the animators when they were working on Geppetto.
Christian Rubb is a very good actor.
He did both those voices.
So he did an Italian and he did an Englishman.
See myself in every one of them.
The time I tied strings on you and passed you off as a puppet.
And in fact,
Smoke
one of my favorite
donuts.
character actors plays Honest John. Walter Catlin, a wonderful and talented.
He looks like you
comedic
gotta
actor.
check on his
Again,
hard
he's been
drive.
on the stage, in vaudeville, on Broadway, and lots of movies.
Dude, he's like those
Walter
like
Catlin was a
YouTube
Shakespearean actor, and he really put on
show
the role he was
reviewers,
acting made
Nostalgia
for him.
Critic's dad.
And then those drawings would be used as reference. And the point of it, of course, is that they're just using it for the suggestions of ideas that they can get from that. You know, featuring an actor named
They need to
Val
drop the
Stanton,
live
who
action,
would be costumed and would go through the movements
footage,
that
bro.
Jiminy Cricket be tracing every arm movement and leg movement that he did. What they'd be doing is looking at the whole general spirit of his movements and any
Yo.
ideas that he might unconsciously suggest.
With some of the best character actors in the business at that time. I'm so proud that I was able to work with one of the greatest groups that was ever.
Walt Disney was after one thing, in
You think Walt Disney
execution
would be
of
like, I own
perfection.
Marvel now?
And he
Like,
would stop at nothing.
You'd be
You
like,
think
what the
he'd
freak
be
is
like-
that?
Snow White turned out so well.
They thought him out, and he
But
was
by
like,
the
what?
time they finished
What are you guys
Snow
doing?
White,
What's
at
with
the
all
end
the
of that
remakes? What's the ESPN and all these news anchor shows?
They had been aiming more and more toward a richer, deeper, darker look in their films, a more luxurious look. My friend Russell Merritt, streets of the village that
Geppetto.
things like that.
Penguin made wonderful paintings of things like the village and the interior of Geppetto's house.
And especially in the camera effects department. There was a
Going all
man
out.
named Herman Schultheis who worked in the camera department then and did posterity an enormous favor by taking pictures of the camera setups.
The multiplane camera was a device that the Disney studio invented that gave depth to the animation scene. With this camera, they can do elaborate background paintings and go through the scene. And they did that frequently in this film.
You've got that famous scene going over the rooftops. You've got not only depth moves, but also lateral moves. And in the end, what they did was do a variation on the multiplane, only instead of shooting down through that big crane, they shot it horizontally.
So these old Disney movies is just glass panes.
On Pinocchio. And in fact, the head of the model department was Joe Grant, and he was one of the legendary artists.
I don't be trusting niggas named Joe, bro.
When I started working here at Disney, one of the things I did early on was go over to the animation research library. I used to take some of those scenes out. I'd spend hours looking and studying that animation, and
Oh, they got all that saved, bro?
absolutely astounding.
You think they got the forbidden ones in there? You know, Disney was always with these animals. Like, you know, you see the walking duck.
Meaning
You got
splashes
a
and
mouse,
ripples and
an
bubbles
anthropomorphic
and
mouse.
foam and so
You
on.
got Honest John, the
Plus, the
anthropomorphic
texture of the water
fox.
itself. They experimented
You
over
think
and over
Disney
with
was
different
about the
ways of
fur,
getting
the rain
depth
first, bro?
in
Dude,
the water to look
You know there
convincing.
was like 200
They found
animators
an
up in
infinite
here.
number
You
of
know that they
ways
were
to
drawing.
proceed the waves with mixtures of blue and black scriptal pencil lead, smoothing this onto the paper to create the sense of modeling of the waves and the play of the light on the waves. And this could take forever to do one of these.
Where the effects break out and have that sort of momentary starring role, whether it's the storm sequence in The Little Mermaid or in Pinocchio, it's that whole Monstro the whale sequence, which is just stunning.
So much logic in the way the waves worked.
Crazy madman of a guy named Josh Metter, who was the effects animator on a lot of that Monstro sequence. If you look at the Monstro sequence, you think, oh yeah, well, so we're going to do this sequence with a whale, and he's going to swallow our stars. But he's going to jump around for a while, and you wanna
Whales
see
just
water
be
splash?
swallowing
Great,
everything.
we'll show you water splash.
That's like the eating
Quarters
technique
at an angle,
that I could
we'll
never
have splash
adopt of
screen,
just
we'll-
opening your
What are you
mouth
talking about?
and
You didn't
gliding
just adopt
across.
it. You created it.
Pinocchio and the Artistry is what
Go
made
heyday,
this
man.
movie.
Ah,
Josh Metter
just
was
gliding
as much of a hero of
across.
Pinocchio as anyone else.
It was gliding through
In the
the
end,
cavity
I think
that's
all
called
of
your
the
mouth.
technical-
We see a clock with a mama spanking her bad little boy.
Okay.
Each one has its own different sound.
I'm gonna use that audio out of context.
Symphony.
Walt always had a way of doing things with sounds where you just can't even imagine how he came up with that sound, how those guys did it. Like, if you look at Monstro, how they came up with the sound of that whale. Inhaling and
In years hence, they realized that this is one of the greatest scores for a film that was ever made.
The main part of Pinocchio's score was written by Lee Harleen. A lot of the most musically complex of the silly symphonies, films like Music Land
Have you seen Music Land, bro?
and the band concert.
No. I've seen the band concert though.
You be watching this?
I watched it when I was a kid. All the time I had it on the VHS.
You got the music at the puppet show, where the song is sung by Pinocchio.
No strings hold me down. No strings, your arms is free. I've got strings, but on you.
It's easy to underestimate just what a magnificent score that is until you listen to the music by itself.
That's wild, bro. The creativity, man. Even though it's not an original thing, like, you know, Pinocchio was already an existing
Paul
story.
Smith also worked on the
in
score
this
for
era,
Pinocchio.
but
He came to Disney in the mid-1930s.
it's like a
Years
new
after.
spin.
Extensively on the score was Ned Washington. Now, Ned Washington was the lyricist.
He looks like a politician.
And he wrote the
A
lyrics
politician.
She ain't a politician, honey's a politician.
for another song he wrote in 1952, that being the title song to High Noon, Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling. So he really is someone who historically is very much associated with
the music and the songs. Not only were part
Oh wait,
of
was
the
this that
story,
Three Little
but
Pigs
they
animation?
actually
I think
moved
I've
the
seen
story
this. I think I
along.
had the VHS of that. Yeah, I had this, bro. Okay.
We have all grown up with many, many musicals, Broadway musicals, very famous things, but the classic Broadway musical that we know, that where the story is told through music, really started in the 40s.
Great step forward, which was often credited to the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies of that time, was making the songs part of the story. No one had thought of that before.
But they would just
And even
perform
on
a
Broadway,
song?
That wasn't commonplace.
No, it became one of the best-known songs in history.
Anything your heart desires will come to you.
I've heard so many bad working retail in the holidays. I've heard a lot. When you wish upon a star.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
So many versions. When you wish upon.
There's been
This guy is always making goofy faces in every image. We have not seen a normal image of him, bro.
There was a great deal of anticipation.
Oh, yes! Pinocchio! Why?
The reviews, when it first opened.
Yeah! For Pinocchio, you were looking at
Honest
stick
John,
figures
Little John.
and primitive art form, and these guys moved the art form ahead to Pinocchio. I mean, that's a big journey, and that's why we stand on their shoulders, because they were the guys that brought the art form together.
And then Frozen, and then this gave birth to the Elsa subreddit, where they ship Elsa and Anna as a couple, bro.
Don't forget with Encanto.
It's just
Oh yeah.
With the Bruno and all of that.
Kids,
yeah.
Walt Disney would put himself back in a Frozen thing, and we saw that subreddit.
Pinocchio's gonna go on forever.
He went, my time has come. Let me go on Reddit.com. And then, oh no. That was cool, bro. That was tight. Hey, man, James, dude. Oh, Walt Disney did a lot, bro. He did a lot for animation, dude.
Yep, he's a good guy. I don't know if he was a good guy. I don't know if he was a noble guy. I just know he's a Frozen guy.
When you wish upon a star, your hairline doesn't grow back.
I know I'm still supposed to hate you. I know I'm still supposed to hate you. Tonight is tense and we miss you. Phone calls and